Finally, okay. I had this freeze like for 10 seconds. I wasn't sure when the hangout was going to start.
No.
It was so all the season for Game of Thrones, the hangouts worked perfectly, and then this is the one time for the season finale. It just took forever. Just like,
Yep.
is it going? Is it going? Welcome back to Waffle Press TV Hangouts. My name is Diego Crespo, and with me I have Emily Sophia. How are you doing today?
I am doing pretty freaking well. I have to admit that I spent quite a bit of my workday distracted by Game of Thrones related things that kept appearing on the internet, and now we're here to talk about it. So I feel adequately enthused.
Yep, and there is a lot to talk about. I was going to ask like what in particular, but there's a lot. There's a lot because we're not doing a full season review until next week. This week is all about the season finale because there was many things happening. A lot of people got hurt. This is a spoiler discussion. We're going to be breaking down the episode as it progressed and by sections, regions. Okay, well, first off, as we discussed before, Emily noted that there was usually the show is called just Tits and Dragons.
Yep.
And there were plenty of dragons, and then in comparison to other seasons, they actually kind of cut back on that stuff, on nudity-wise. I mean, it's still there. You know, it's like they're taking baby steps, and then they threw in, like, one penis. And this is them, like, adjusting.
Yes.
And so next season we'll get 2 penises, and then less female nudity as well.
Yes. And then maybe 4 by the next season. You know, if they were going to just continue exponentially, then there could be exponentially more dong to include in the excitement. So
yeah, and by the final season, I don't even think we're going to see any more penises. I think the dragons will be shaped like penises, and then Daenerys will be literally riding them into victory. You know, like it won't be sensual. It'll just be like victorious.
Yes,
like, Game of Thrones fully like embraces the male nudity. And they're just like these giant dongs flying through the sky. We usually don't talk about this stuff on this show. Just,
but it happened.
The discussion came up earlier, and I thought it'd be fun to bring it back up again. So let's just get right into it. The episode opens up with King's Landing, and Cersei has lost everything, pretty much. She's lost her relationship to her son. She's probably going to be convicted for like crimes against everything and everyone because nobody likes her except for her son. And so she pulls the ultimate trump card, and I was right in my prediction.
Yes.
I've never wanted to be so wrong about anything in my entire life because it's like the writers realized, oh yeah, these guys were supporting characters for like a long time. We just pushed them to the forefront, but really it's time to start dwindling down all the supporting characters and all the minor plots that have been progressing. And they probably didn't want to pay as many people anymore as they started needing more budget for the dragons and a shitload of other stuff. And so they're like, oh, how can we trim our budget? Oh, I got an idea. This guy in the back room goes, I got an idea. Let's just blow everyone up. And so
take them out of the equation.
Like 90% of the cast from King's Landing is dead, and that's like heartbreaking. And it was like something straight out of The Godfather, the way they were cutting back between Lancel and Lancel. There's so many. Lancel and the Lannister cousin.
And Loras.
There we go. Okay.
Lancel and Loras and Sir Lancelot. And
yeah, there's a lot of L's.
Yes.
Cutting back and forth between all those characters in King's Landing, and I thought she was going to kill Tommen for a second. I was like, why did the mountain stop outside Tommen's door like that? And
that's totally what I was thinking. And then like the cutting back and forth until finally you realize exactly what's going on, and then it all kind of settles on Cersei as she's watching smugly in the distance with her goblet of wine and just yes.
And I think at one point to, like some red liquid spilling, like wine, or like after Lancel got stabbed, and I thought, oh fuck, because that cuts like almost immediately after Tommen, if I remember correctly. And I was she went full crazy. She doesn't care about her kids anymore. Like her one redeeming factor, she just killed her son. And no, she didn't. No. Not directly. Anyways, we'll get to that in a second. So yeah, that was fucking crazy. And that happens in like the first 10 minutes. I wasn't ready for it. I thought that would be like a cliffhanger thing if they did it. I was wrong. Yeah. That's I'm gonna
top of the hour.
I'm gonna miss all these characters. Jonathan Pryce as the High Sparrow was deliciously evil. Like, I don't think he really had dimensions, but at least you understood where he was coming from, and Jonathan Pryce was always a delight to watch. Marjorie Terrell, I thought, was one of the great Game of Thrones characters. Natalie Dormer was fantastic. I expect an Emmy nomination for Best Supporting Actress for her, because, you know, I don't know if she had any, like, jaw-dropping Tyrion, Peter Dinklage scenes, but I think she's really great, and, you know, why not? Compared to some of the people that get nominated usually. She's fantastic. And obviously she's got a big career in Hollywood ahead of her, so
for sure. He's set to go.
Yeah, what do you think about this King's Landing stuff? Because this is friggin' crazy. We're gonna still talk about some more of it, but oh my god.
I was losing my mind. Like from the very beginning of the episode, everything just felt completely different, you know. Like I felt like I was walking into a funeral where the the people who are supposed to be, you know, the funeral is being held for are still alive at the beginning of that funeral. Like that is how everything at King's Landing felt to me. And there was this very like for one thing, the score was absolutely incredible. The music just immediately set the tone for everything that was about to transpire after that. And cutting back and forth to everyone like preparing for the trial in their own different ways, you know, be that like putting on some kind of outfit or, you know, and like all the cutting back and forth and seeing Cersei suit up too, I was like, oh, she's gonna kill somebody, you know? Yeah. That outfit is probably my favorite thing that I have ever seen Cersei in. It is just so freaking and even seeing her on the Iron Throne, like with the shoulder plates and the chains and the ooh daddy. It was very intense. But yeah, there was this franticness that I could feel, you know, as they were going through the processions, and like Loras is instantly ready to confess everything and to join the Seven. And that whole time my brain was working in overdrive because I was really I didn't know what to expect fully of Marjorie's turn to the faith militant and the High Sparrow and everything. But it really, and it was really interesting how she was like trying to calm down her father, like when they mutilated him, to initiate him into that. And so I was like trying to focus on all the little details and all the things, because I'm trying to figure out like, okay, is Marjorie gonna like show her hand here, or what's gonna go on? And then it's like, okay, Cersei is still hanging back. This is a bad thing. And this is something that Marjorie realizes too, which makes it all the more tragic, is that it's not something that just happened. It was something that crept up on them. And then, oh gosh, it was, and then seeing the little birds in like the catacombs, and Qyburn taking down the Grand Maester, and like there was so much going on, and then it all just kaboom. And like there was that moment where Lancel is like he's bleeding out, you know, he's been stabbed in the stomach, and he's crawling towards the wildfire, and then just watching it ignite like in his eyes and then erupt everywhere else was crazy. It was, oh man. And that scene too with Tommen and trying to figure out what's going to go on with him in the mountain, and really he was just there to keep him in place. But it's almost like Cersei was forcing him to watch this. Like I am convinced that this was her punishment, and that she knew what was going to happen. Judging by her complete lack of reaction, either she was just par for the course, and, you know, she had just blown everybody up and tortured the Septa, and he's like, oh, well, okay, then fine, I guess I'll deal with this too. But it seems to me now in hindsight that it was very, intentional, because like you said, he betrayed her, and she had her one out, her trial by combat, and that was even taken away from her by her own son. And so I think she was ready at that point. And that scene where he steps out of the frame and we're just watching the window, and then all of a sudden, doop. I was just kind of like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
I couldn't believe that happened. I was like, oh, it's just gonna be Tommen and Cersei we're following in King's Landing for like the next premiere. Oh no, he just jumped out of the window, and it's so sad because I don't know if I agree that Cersei saw that coming, but
Sure.
I don't think she cares as much anymore. I think she's the one thing that gave her some humanity. Her children are gone now. Like Jaime to an extent, but it's like a really fucked up humanity, and that's gone too. I don't think she cares anymore. Like she's won, but what has she really won? Like she's not even the abstract sense of human that we understood her to be anymore. Yeah. She's nothing. She's lost all her children. She's probably lost her trust, the kingdom's trust, or she has. She committed an act of terrorism before like anything in the history. And yeah, I think it's just so sad because Tommen in the books, he's like 8 or 10, I forget. Like he's just a little boy, you know. And he obviously cared very much about Natalie Dormer. Like I'm sure Marjorie, like I'm sure to an extent because she's very pretty, that probably played a part in it. But I mean, for as much as he could, she was on his side, or at least she was nice to him. And Cersei, she loves him, but she controlled every aspect of his life. And so to be like that trapped within that, I totally understand why how he got pushed to that position, and it's just so sad,
Yeah, it's really terrible because, like you said, he's so young, he's so impressionable, and then he realizes in that instant that he has lost his wife, his queen, everything that he just committed himself to, like as a leader. I don't even know if all of like his brain is working on all of those levels, of course, because it's just such a shock that instantly it's just game over. And I think it could very well be that Cersei didn't necessarily intend for this to happen, because that would be a whole nother level of sadistic. So it really just kind of depends like how dark you think she went for this. But I do think that you're right, that she's just so cold, so callous, so numb to everything, that all she wanted was her revenge. And so he ended up becoming collateral damage in that, and she had to simply embrace the results that she got and everything that came with it.
And then if you look at how she reacted to all of her kids, each of them dying, and that prophecy that the witch gave her way back when she was a child is almost coming completely to fruition. I have a couple theories.
Yeah, because her tears are drying, like she's losing her empathy, or perhaps has already lost it completely by this point. But
yeah, she was like screaming after Joffrey's death, and he was not a great kid.
Arguably the worst of the bunch.
Yeah, probably. And then Marcella, she was sad, but not like exploding when Joffrey died, And then by this point, she's just like burn him and spread his ashes on the Sept or whatever. Like, fuck, that was like
just pure pragmatism.
We're staying or died in the same season pretty much, and nothing compared to what happened with Joffrey. Like she's clearly just lost it, and that's really sad. I mean, she's never the person, but to go to that extent to not even care about, or not even to show emotion about the death of her child, her third one, that's crazy. And since we're on King's Landing, why don't we just finish all the King's Landing stuff right now?
Sure.
I think it's very interesting that they kept referring to Jaime's history with wildfire and the Mad King throughout the series.
Yeah.
And now the person he loves more than anything else in the world has done exactly what he was dishonored for doing.
Yes.
For stopping originally. He killed the Mad King to stop him from doing the same thing.
And then he did it.
And then Cersei did it
Yeah.
that's not
She
going
was like
to
King
end
and
well.
Queen Slayer. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, and I do believe that Jamie's going to be the one to kill Cersei down the line.
Oh, he's gotta be. He's gotta be.
Because she's ruined everything. It's not going to be any easier for the Seven Kingdoms to unite when the White Walkers come to town and everybody. And
Yeah.
what I don't want to see is another big battle at King's Landing. I think now it needs to be more small scale. But we can talk about hopes and aspirations in the season review.
Sure.
But yeah, that was heavy. And that was just the opening.
Yeah, totally. Do we want to talk about Cersei's coronation thing later, or did you want to do that?
Oh no, let's just talk about it right now. Yeah.
Sure.
So
Jamie that is of course up. Later, but
yeah, let's just get all the stuff in one location. That way we don't have to hop around too much. So Jamie shows up and he's not happy because his kids are dead, and Cersei's queen, and they probably can't have any more kids because one, she's not married to anybody. Two, if they have kids, everyone knows that they're like lovers, but they can't like make it official because that will not end well for either of them. And honestly, by this point, I'd rather it just didn't end well for Cersei because she's a mass murderer now.
Yep. She's a terrorist.
Yeah, she's a terrorist.
She needs to go down.
Oh, and I completely forgot when Grandmaster Pycelle died. That was the one thing that they hadn't gotten to yet from the books, and so I was
really. So that had happened in the books.
It's a very different situation, but some of the stuff is very similar in how it plays out. The little birds.
Yeah.
The little birds. It's much creepier there. I don't know. I found it creepy here too, but the way it plays out in the book, I was like,
yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah. And I believe that covers all the stuff from King's Landing. Jamie just watches Cersei's coronation. The mountain is still there, and he's horrifying. Clegane Bowl 2017.
Hell yes.
Yeah. I guess Grandmaster Qyburn is her hand, right?
Yep.
That's also, he's not. I don't think he's like evil, but I just think he likes tampering with stuff that
should not be tampered with.
Yeah.
He's got that Dr. Frankenstein thing going on, so
yeah, like I bet he'll just go wherever, like, oh, what, the Night's Watch will let me resurrect zombies? Oh, cool, I'll go to them. Oh, well, cool. I got all this more equipment at King's Landing, I'll go over here.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a weird dude. I don't trust him, but I don't think he's like Littlefinger, who I will never trust also, but yeah.
No. Yeah, that whole scene was just so haunting and so freaky, and seeing Jamie's expression from the wings as he's watching her, you can tell he's gonna be the one who's gonna plant the knife. Because I was actually reading about a bunch of crazy theories with people trying to speculate about who is going to be the one to bring the prophecy to an end and kill Cersei. And I believe that the word that was used in the prophecy to describe the person who's going to do it is another word for like little brother or little sibling or something to that effect. I don't know if it had a specific gender or not. So, everybody's thinking everything from Tyrion to what was a super weird one? There's some people speculating that Arya would be the one to do it, or like Arya disguised as Jamie and like all kinds of crazy stuff. But I think Jamie's probably going to be the one if I had to guess.
Yeah, I think because they're twins, but I think Cersei came out first. So if we're going like on technicalities,
yeah,
I think he fits the bill more than anybody. And just to wrap up the King's Landing stuff, more than anything, well, except for Cersei originally, he cares about protecting the realm. I mean, he's got his major fucking issues, but he cares about serving people.
Yeah.
To an extent, of course, I'm aware. But look, when you betray the guy you swore to protect no matter what because he's endangering the lives of innocent people, like that's ballsy what Jaime did, and so massive respect for that. And he's totally gonna kill Cersei. That's my prediction on that. But since you mentioned Arya, why don't we hop over to the twins, where Jaime was originally at? And forgive me if I'm mistaken. Please tell me Arya wasn't one of the girls that went with Bronn, like in her faceless woman thing.
Oh,
I'm sure she didn't like do anything with that, but I thought they were the same actress. That's why, as great as this episode was, I was like,
Ooh, I didn't even think about that.
I don't know. I don't think they did that. Because I think they finally, after 6 seasons, learned, hey, maybe we're going overboard with the sex and the violence and the abuse. So I don't think so, but maybe the actors just looked really similar and I confused them, but whatever. Or maybe Arya took her face. I don't know. But that was my first thought when she finally showed up with the twins, and I was like, that's gross. And then it got also gross when she finally fucking kills... Filch from Harry Potter.
Walder Frey.
Thank you.
Cross universe action.
Seriously. Jaime's discussion with him early on in their scenes together, I also thought was really great because that also solidifies like what you're
foreshadowing.
Yeah, like no one cares about you guys. You guys are nothing. Like they're scared of the Lannisters. You were just like an instrument. You're not even like a real house. You got stuff going on, but they're all talk. They can't walk the walk. And so I really like that he shut them down. And then they're all dead now, which is fantastic. And Arya cooked them into pies and fed them to him, which is I don't remember. They mentioned that in the show, right? Like early on, like in the previous season, right?
I believe so.
Okay, because I couldn't remember. Like, I'm such a big fan of the show, and it's hard for me to even remember some things, which we're totally going to get back to because of a certain reveal that happens later in the episode. But yeah, I couldn't remember, like, that was in the books, that description of people being fed meat pies, but I couldn't remember if that was made into the show. But yeah, okay, if it made it into the show, even better. And that's super gross. That is really gross.
Oh my gosh.
What did you think of this total revenge, satisfying, slightly worrying story with Arya?
Yeah, no, I had no idea that was coming. I was almost completely convinced that we weren't going to see her until next season. We might have even spoken about that in our previous hangout. I'm not totally sure, but
yes. No, because she left. Last we saw her, she left back to Westeros, and we're like, "Oh, okay, that's probably gonna be the last we see of her." Because what else is she gonna do in the finale? Well,
yeah, totally. And so that whole moment, I just flipped my lid. I think I legitimately jumped out of my chair at that point. When she peels back her face, it's like, but of course you would. It was awfully satisfying to get to see her get her revenge. A little bit freaky, of course, because now, well, she is a murderer too. I mean, she's kind of been a murderer. She has done murderous things, but now she is putting her assassin skills to use for her own devices. And she's not finished with her list yet, and who knows if that list shall grow. But I'm curious as to who she's going to meet up with next. That is kind of the big question mark, is like, okay, where does she go from here? Makes a major milestone in her life as Arya Stark. But yeah, it was tremendously terrifying and great and wonderful to see the events of the Red Wedding finally being sort of resolved in a sense many seasons down the line, because there's still that lingering trauma. And so for her to do that in the finale was just icing on top of the cake for me. I continue to be scared for her. I don't know who I even want her to meet up with next, because I'm afraid to like have all the Starks in the same place, or I don't know at this point. But yeah, there's speculation that maybe she'll run into the Hound again, and I don't know at this point. But good on her for taking out Walder Frey, because he sucks in a major way.
Yeah, she's kind of like the Punisher in the sense now. Some people compare her to like Batman, like vengeance for her family.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that, mostly just because of the no-kill thing, even though they're both seriously psychologically damaged. And yeah, Punisher and Arya are badass, but at the same time, acknowledge how fundamentally fractured their psyches are now, and how they'll never be like human in the sense that we understand again. They're just driven by hate and anger. And it's really sad in its own way. Like, yeah, definitely cheer that, that she's getting her list done, and that she's giving these people their comeuppance.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, that's really fucked up. She's like, how old is she? I mean, if we're going by book time, she's like not even 13, I don't think. If we're going by Showtime, I think they just adapted, like, each season stands like as a year. But either way,
she's an adolescent. She's still a youth.
So that's sad. Although very, very satisfying, because that was 3 seasons ago now, where she saw her brother's corpse with his wolf's head strapped to him and riding around the camp, and it's just heartbreaking still.
Yeah.
And let's get smaller stuff out of the way so we can finish on 2 big notes, Ice and Fire. But first, at Old Town, Sam and Gilly have finally made it. And really not much to talk about in this one, but it's just a nice little cute ending for characters that are lovable. And like, I just want to hug all 3 of them, the baby, Gilly, and Sam. Like, just
I know, they're so freaking adorable. Where's their picket fence?
Like, please, I don't care if everyone else dies. I mean, I would care if everyone else dies, but if they make it through, I'll be all right.
And it was very nice to see the wonderment on Sam's face when he goes into the library, and for someone to have this joyous moment that's like not related to revenge, like not the last thing you'll ever see is a Stark smiling down at you as you die, or a burn baby burn moment. It's just books and knowledge and enlightenment. It's a very happy, very peaceful moment in the midst of lots of other things, and I am glad to have seen that.
I think it speaks to how Game of Thrones has really gotten better at portraying like all facets of Westeros this season. I would still like to see some more perspective from like commoners, but I guess if we're going for like the lower class such, Sam is a good outlet for that now. I mean, he's still like learning to be a maester, which isn't the lower class per se, but I mean, we're getting a lot of really broad spectrums of the world. So yeah, like all the revenge stuff, all the triumphs, all the tragedy. It's like this episode had everything, and it ultimately encapsulates everything Game of Thrones was about. And even just this little nice thing, it's also why this season is so fucking good, because it's not just trauma and depression and because that gets to be too much. So yeah, not much to speak on this one. I mean, unless you had anything else, it was just nice to watch happy be happy.
Yeah, totally. I am with you there.
And then Dorne really quick, and then we'll just have over to the last 2.
Sure.
I was very scared because I wasn't sure if they were doing Dorne, and I believe I got this correct also on my predictions. I'm just gonna. I didn't crack, but that's okay. Yeah, I'm very happy that they're giving Dorne something to do. Yes. I'm hoping they don't drag down the quality of other stories now. I really hope they figured out what to do with them. It was just really cool to see Lady Olenna just be like, nah. Like whenever one of them would speak, one of the Sand Snakes, she'd be like, nope.
Shut up.
Nope. Yeah.
Don't care.
Because the Sand Snakes should be like the coolest supporting characters. They should be like a bunch of mini Aryas, but less psychologically damaged. And then instead they were just duds last season. So Maybe just completely reboot them for the next year. I don't know. I mean, the actresses are fine. It's not them. It's just the writing.
Yeah.
Then Varys pops up to gain another alliance for Daenerys, and I don't know how many soldiers and armies she has now, but she's got a fair few.
Yeah, she's got the world in the palm of her hand, I would say.
And some more tragedy. Lady Olenna has no family left because Cersei took it all.
Yep.
They had a plan. It didn't work because Cersei took it all. So, yeah, Cersei needs to go.
Yeah. Yeah, she's done. And wasn't there a point earlier on in a previous episode where Olenna was like, what are you going to do? Like, kill them all or something? Like, she made some offhanded comment, and then it's like, yes. Why, yes, I am.
Yeah, I think she did say that. Like, in the episode that she left, she's like, well, I'm going to leave because Marjorie had just given her the little rose. Like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I get it. We're doing the long con. And they got no con. They just got blown up.
Yep.
Oh, it's so sad. They're all dead. Oh, man.
Rip House Tyrell.
Yeah. I am glad that people are finally teaming up against Cersei, because it'd be really cool to watch Jaime actually switch sides.
That's what I want to see. Like, I want to know who he would team up with first. You know, I'd like to think Brienne, of course, but she's kind of far away, so it'd be tough for them to work together at this point. But I would like to see him join forces with the good side,
or at least the better ones. You know,
the better side.
At least someone who's not Cersei. That would be wonderful and great. Let's make that happen.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, I mean, not much to talk about there either. Just mostly
just a blip.
Another solid Dorne scene for the season. It's only the second one. So already, if we're grading on a curve, these are already the two best ones. So. And then up north, beyond the wall, we get a nice little catch up with Uncle Benjen and Bran and
Mira.
I remembered this time.
Yeah.
Okay. I wish Uncle Benjen could join them down, but magic and the wall and hocus pocus. I wonder how that's going to come into play with the White Walkers. I don't know.
Question mark.
Yeah, I'm kind of predicting that the wall is going to just come down somehow, and it's going to be not great. But at least Uncle Benjen will be able to come across finally. I don't know. So we get a nice little scene of Bran once again trying to see what his father was up to the day his aunt died. Excuse me, not his sister. His aunt died. And finally, after 20 years of stories set in the world of Westeros, we can confirm that R plus L equal J.
Yep.
And that Jon Snow is indeed the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark. There's not much dialogue, and there were just whispers during the scene where Lyanna was speaking to Ned. And it was a very, very heartbreaking scene, a character we've only heard about and really just seen for the first time right now. And it was very well acted, as usual, in Game of Thrones, but with the direction is so good. We haven't mentioned, but Miguel Sapochnik, Miguel Sapochnik, who directed last week's excellent Battle of the Bastards and last year's Hardhome, is phenomenal, and he is I think the best director Game of Thrones has ever had. I rewatched Battle of the Bastards at lunch one day this week, and I'm pretty sure that's like my favorite now. If only just because the direction's so good, and this episode does it again. From the opening moments of the episode, cutting back to each member of the group in King's Landing, setting up a very ominous grave feeling, and to the scene where we finally discover R plus L equal J for Jon Snow. You feel everything. You understand what's happening in the scene, even though there's no dialogue. The way it's filmed, the way Ramin Djawadi's score orchestrates behind to give you the appropriate emotion, and the way the camera works, he's just so good. That guy's clearly got a job in Hollywood waiting for him. That's the only reason I'm expecting him not to show up to direct an episode next season.
Because he's too good. He's already won.
Too good, yeah. Somebody already got him. Like, they called him immediately after the episodes aired, and they're like, hey,
I saw what you did there.
Yeah. Like, or what do you want to do? We'll give you $50 million. Go crazy. Yeah, and then the scene cuts to an older Jon Snow.
Yes,
and
to make sure that nobody ain't no equivocating. It's legit.
Yeah, and I can't imagine if anybody misunderstood what that was supposed to be. No, I mean, I get it. Some people didn't get the explanation without dialogue, and that's okay. You know, I just like, for me, it was weird when I heard like, oh, it hasn't been confirmed yet. I was like,
I know, I was super confused. I was like, wait, what are we talking about? Why is this happening? And then it's like, I see the story today, like, HBO confirms. It's like, the show confirms, but I'm like, okay, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see how someone would miss it. I don't want to feel like a pompous asshole and be like,
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
But,
and admittedly, I was one of those people who was like reading about things too. So it's like, if you were just watching the show and there was that one little piece that you missed, like, it would not be all that difficult to be like, wait, who? Who's the daddy?
How often have they talked about Rhaegar Targaryen in the show? How often have they shown Rhaegar Targaryen? They've never shown him, first of all. So yeah, I can understand how someone would miss that.
Sure, I would agree.
But yeah, I mean, the direction is pretty clear. If you're able to track all the characters and everything that's happening, the 60 plus characters or 120 plots going on at the same time, yeah, then sure, I'm sure it's easier to understand. But yeah, I thought the way it was cut, the way it was directed, from that segment of the world to the next with Jon Snow and Sansa in the north, I was like, oh, okay, this is clearly
perfect segue.
Yeah, that was, oh my god, give this in Hardhome, Battle of the Bastards, like, all the Emmys next year, like,
yes,
all of them,
please. Ugh.
And then we finally cut to things in the north, and Davos has some words for Melisandre, and they're not nice. Did they ever mention that? Did Davos ever mention, what was her name?
Shireen?
The little girl. Shireen. Shireen. Yeah, did he ever ask about her? I mean, I think he asked about her in like the premiere of this season, like what happened to the princess.
Yes, right? I remember that he did ask that, and I think he was probably given an ambiguous enough answer, and he probably already in his mind was like, okay, like they lost, and you know, so he had one idea in his mind, and then he discovers something else.
Yep, and you can't blame him for being mad because she basically killed she didn't kill directly, but she didn't help Stannis and his men. Like, imagine how much easier the battle would have been last week if she just had convinced Stannis to team up with Jon Snow.
Right? It's like, just wait. Just wait. Give a couple months.
I'm willing to forgive Game of Thrones for a lot of stuff over the course of this season because it got so good again. I'm never getting over how disappointing the end of Stannis' story is. Like, oh, he just died. Like, they had to confirm it after. Like, that one I get.
Yeah.
Or like they had to confirm that one after the episode because they're like, oh, did Bran just kill him? I don't know. We didn't see like a head lop off or anything.
And it's like, oh yeah, he died. Yeah. It's whatever.
It's like they
anticlimactic.
Yeah, they like lost interest in his story, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's dead."
Yeah, it's like,
he's not important anymore. He's
sorry, too many other interesting things going on. So, I guess that's.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, this is what?"
Like, okay, cool.
Yeah, but someone didn't lose interest in Stannis' story, and that's Davos.
Yes.
So, the confrontation between him and Melisandre, I like that this season she's gone through like a crisis of faith, and that she's admits she doesn't know everything. She just kind of like she's treading the terrain, you know, like she's searching it and to feel what feels right and what the right path is. But all she knows is that Jon Snow is the guy. She thought Stannis was. She was wrong, and this time she hopes she's right. And I don't mean that like to be mocking me. Like there's no right answer. It's
No.
like, what if she's wrong? What if it's Daenerys, or what if it's Bran or someone, like,
Yeah.
and that, I think that makes her a lot more compelling this
Hmm.
season than other previous ones.
Yeah.
And if I was John, I would also send her away,
Hmm.
because that's discomforting. Be like, oh yeah, burn this kid so you can win a war. Like, what if I
Yeah.
didn't? I mean, that's no way to like approach criticism. Like, I would do this, but I can understand,
Hmm.
because don't burn kids, guys. Like,
Yeah.
don't do that.
That's a way to cross a line. Yeah, and I think that John realizes in that moment, like, I don't think it's wise that I keep your counsel at this point. I don't necessarily want you dead, but I don't want you caught dead around Davos. So he made a wise call, I would say.
Yeah, and I'm glad Davos is sticking around. I really like that
He's a good
character.
guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good guy, so he's probably gonna die,
Yep.
but he's a good guy. I miss Ned, so he's my replacement Ned.
I know that. I think that's kind of how I feel. He's sort of a surrogate for that, like, warm-hearted, good guy, noble character that we
Yeah.
need.
And he's lived so much longer, so it
Yep.
helps.
It does.
And so we see Melisandre right off south, because she's not wanted here anymore. I really hope they don't make her like a woman scorned next season. She's like, oh, Jon Snow turned me away. Well, I'm gonna help Cersei Lannister. Like, that wouldn't make sense to me. Like, how do you track that development? Yeah, that wouldn't be interesting. But Sansa joins Jon over the rafters of Winterfell, victorious from their battle with Ramsay, finally defeating the cartoonish evil of Iwan Rheon. Great actor. I hope he continues to do more interesting things. And I won't miss his character, though. The conversation Jon and Sansa have, because, before we go into the finale, like, I assumed Sansa would be the one to rally the North. And to an extent, Jon does too, I think. Because he's not a real Stark. He's a Snow. And I could understand why people want to rally behind Jon. It's because of their traditions, and they're like, I bet they didn't even consider Sansa as queen, because to them it's like, oh yeah, Jon Snow won the North, and that's unfortunately that's kind of the way those things are, and I bet that's a bummer for Sansa, because she's smarter. I mean, Jon's not dumb, but he's not the brightest fellow. So, I bet he'll start listening to Sansa a lot more now. And the conversation they have about them needing to trust each other more. Their family, they're all they've got, pretty much. They don't know Bran and Arya are still alive at this point. Yeah, lots of good stuff. And then Littlefinger's obviously creeping on Sansa again, and she's like,
no, sir.
Yeah, I was so happy. I was like, don't let them kiss. Don't let them kiss. Don't fuck this up. This is a great season. Don't fuck. Oh, thank God.
And he does the whole thing. It's like, I picture myself on the Iron Throne with you at my side. And it's like this totally cliche moment, and Sansa just shuts it right down. And I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah. Oh man, that felt so good.
Trifled with again.
And also very happy that she just straight up like, I would never trust Littlefinger. I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
They're making you so much cooler than I already thought you were. Like, you're my favorite character.
More brownie points.
Now she's just solidified herself as my #1 favorite Game of Thrones character. So, so good. The writing has gotten so much better for her.
Oh, word. This has been the ultimate comeback season for her, for all of the injustices that she faced last season, and the stupidities and grotesqueries. Now she is large and, well, as in charge as she can be. Of course, got King of the North going on, but she knows her way around kind of the political sphere, partly because of Baelish. She's forging alliances. She's taking out her enemies. She's finding her footing, and it's really wonderful to see that for her. So, yeah. I'm digging it.
I also, I really dug the callback to season 1's King of the North moment. Everyone there is dead. So I wonder. I hope it turns out better because the last time someone was proclaimed King of the North, not great, Bob. So I hope these guys fare much better. They don't have to fight thousands and thousands of people now. They have to fight thousands and thousands of White Walkers. Maybe some dragons. I hope. We'll talk about that in the season review. But there's things I'm worried about there for people and like their lives. And I also like the appreciation Lyanna Mormont gave to Jon Snow. This is the best new character. This is
so good.
Like there's just nothing on Lyanna Mormont. This is what dreams are made of. This is why we have Game of Thrones. Best character. Yeah, I said Sansa, but I was lying. It's Lyanna Mormont.
they're the trifecta of the North. You know, we got Jon, we got Sansa, we got Lyanna. They can run this town for all I'm concerned.
Oh, for sure. You know, give Lyanna Mormont the throne. Give her the throne. Yeah. She would run shit like real good.
She would get it done.
Let's see. Anything else in the North? Winterfell. Yeah, I mean, it'd just be kind of cooler to see them say the Queen in the North for Sansa.
I know.
But, I mean, it's like it's like the stuff with Jon the previous week, where like, yeah, it was a bad decision for him to like run straight first into Ramsay's army, but that, you know, like it was a mistake on his part, not the writing's part. I feel like this too, where the writing clearly doesn't signify that Jon Snow is the best option. It just signifies that he's what tradition perceives as the best option. Like no one considers Queen. So
yeah, and you can see like the camera like focuses in on Sansa as everybody is cheering and shouting his name. Like she's smiling, but then also she's looking at Peter like across the room is looking at her, and it's like, fuck. Oh my goodness. But
yeah, he's still creeping. That dude's got to go too.
I'm scared. Put him on Team Cersei and we'll sink that ship.
Yeah, just burn them. Just burn them all. Like he should have been in the Red Keep. That would have been better.
Yeah.
And then that got one more. Then we wrap up in Meereen. Daenerys, Tyrion, Missandei, Yara, Theon. A lot of people are getting ready to head out, and now she has all three of her dragons under control, and that is fantastic and also worrisome. Yeah. But what is not worrisome is her finally dumping Daario Naharis. I've never liked this character. I wanted him to die a gruesome death forever. Even when I read him in the books, I was like, this guy's kind of a dick. And not like an interesting dick. I mean, in the show, he's like, whatever. I mean, he's just like abs. Like, sure, why not?
Vanilla, you know? Yeah. Like, he and Jorah had a good little romp once upon a time, but beyond that, not all that interesting.
Yeah, I mean, but I kind of like that he fully admits, like, yeah, I don't mind being, like, a side dude. Like, I don't care who, like, sits with you in the throne room. Like, let's just get it on, like, later. Like, all right. Like, that made me like him more than anything else.
Yeah, he's chill, at least. You know, like, he knows what he wants, I guess. But so does Daenerys. So, sorry, man.
Yeah. Besides, Jorah's got to come back eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she told him to.
Well, yeah, I want him to come back, but relationship-wise, clearly Yara and Daenerys, like,
word
2017, you know. What? I got no shipping name for them, but somebody come up with one.
It'll happen.
So I could start hashtagging it. Yeah, yes, that's happening. Yeah, and so Daario will stay in Meereen to oversee these kingdoms, and I like that she's replacing the name of Slaver's Bay to Dragon's Bay, or I think it's Dragon's Bay, yeah.
Or I think it was Bay of Dragons.
Bay of Dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that sounds better. I like that. I hope that's the one.
Yeah.
So that's so good, because we're letting go of the least interesting part of that story in terms of characters, and there's nothing else for Dany to do there. She's finally solidified the region. Warm up, and now she's like, all right, cracks her knuckles, ready for Westeros, and now they're going on a road trip for however long. I really hope that the next season opens with them landing in Westeros, or at the very least, like, they focus entirely on Westeros stories in the premiere, and then at the very end, Dany and her ships and her dragons land and just start like wrecking shit. But I don't know. That's just what I want. And the time difference is getting different in episodes because like by the end of the episode, Varys is back with Daenerys.
I know, that confused me so much. I had to like do a double take because I was like, wait, he was just in what?
Yeah.
So it's like, indeterminate amount of time, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm totally okay with that too. It's a little odd. You got to get used to it.
Yeah.
But it works for story and pacing and emotion. And I think that's, again, lends itself to Miguel Sapochnik's like really, really good direction, is that you're just rolling with it because he's giving you information. Yeah. He's not overdoing it. He's not shortcutting anything. Like he's giving you the best possible version of the story. It feels both realistic and mythical, and it's so good. Please come back.
Don't leave us.
Yeah. So stuff like that I'm cool with. And then I think even like the producers or someone was saying like, yeah, if the plots right now aren't all on the same length of time. So like the Daenerys stuff could take place like however many days after everything else, just so we could end the season on that note.
Yeah. And I think that's for the best. You know, we don't need a rigid, strict timeline in order to be able to enjoy the story. We need, like you said, we need those emotional beats to be hit, and we need to feel the pacing and the progression and the movement and momentum, and that's what we got. So there's really very little to complain about, honestly. But
yeah, I don't think I really have any complaints for this episode. I mean, this is this is like top 5 Game of Thrones for me right here. This is everything. It's a good ending. It's a good preview of what's to come without telling you exactly what's to come. Great endpoint for some stories, and this is a season finale, man. This is why to watch Game of Thrones 101.
Yeah, and I have to say too, I love the scene where Daenerys makes Tyrion Hand of the Queen. That was I got a little bit misty-eyed there. You know, I had the feel goods because he was talking about the whole like cynicism and belief thing, and he's like, "But I believe in you," and it's like he really does, and she believes in him. It's very sweet. I'm super happy about that, to see the two of them coming together, because there was a time where people were speculating like, oh, what if Daenerys like, you know, kills Tyrion or something? Like she doesn't like what he did in Meereen while she was gone, but clearly they are both on the same wavelength, and she can actually be honest with him about what she's thinking and how she's processing things. And I think what was super cool to see is how the two separate queens that we have, like now with Cersei and with Daenerys, like Cersei is cutting all ties. She has severed everything to get to the top. Whereas and Daenerys too, like she's kind of cold in her own way, like with how she was able to dispatch Daario without batting a lash, you know, or giving it a second thought. And she doesn't necessarily like that side of herself, but she's, you know, she confronts that reality, and she's like, okay, but this is what I need to do to go forward, and I trust you, Tyrion, and I trust my judgment. And like she is really priming herself for a good reign, I would say, whereas everything revolving around Cersei is just kind of bathed in bleakness and darkness and despair. So it was cool to see how those two were juxtaposed, especially by the end, because I think it was right around the time that the fleet is taking off. You know, we see the dragons flying and everyone's on the ship and it's all exciting. You know, we see Cersei back in King's Landing, and it's dark, and you know they put the crown on her head, and it's like, ooh, this is scary. It was a very, very big, very exciting and momentous moment, and it was perfect. I was so excited by the end. I would be ready for another 10 episodes right now. But that's just me.
Tragically, we're not even getting 10 next season.
I know.
I mean, you know, allocate the budget however you want to, but you're making me sad.
Yeah. Quality over quantity. We'll quit bitching once we get started, you know.
Yeah, it's just such a bummer to have to wait now. Like, because after season 5, I was kind of dreading, like, oh god, like if that's what they're doing by going off book already, I don't even want to imagine what an entire season of it's like. And then it turns out to be possibly my favorite season. So
I think so.
what do I know? What do I know? Yeah, this is a fantastic season finale. Speechless, kind of still. I would watch it in IMAX. I missed the season 4 final 2 episodes in IMAX when they showed those last year. I hope that they implement that again before season 7, because I would pay good money to watch these on IMAX. So
yes,
anybody out there can do that, do it.
Bring it. Let us give you our money. Got it right here.
I will sell my cat. Just do it.
Give me what I want. Oh man.
Are there any other final thoughts you might have? I mean, I'm pretty much tapped out of my notes.
Yeah, I think so. You know, any other little things we want to dredge up for next week for the season review? I figure we can do that then.
Well, that sounds good to me. Emily, why don't you go ahead and let the people know where they can find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Mighty Sophia. That's E-M, the word mighty, S-O-F-I-A. I have also done a Game of Thrones breakdown. I also made a fun little song parody that I uploaded to my channel right before the finale aired, and I gave my predictions, and a few of them came true, so it's kind of fun. And then you can also find me on both Facebook and Twitter at Mighty Sophia as well, same handle. And on twitch.tv, where someday I hope to be streaming some new content. So now I get to figure out what I'm going to do now that Game of Thrones is done. Preacher is still happening in other shows, but yeah, there will be more to come in the, you know, the Badlands of no Game of Thrones. We will survive, but that's where you can find me.
And, of course, you can find me here on the Waffle Press, on Twitter at DagoWaffles, my writing at audienceseverywhere.net, DagoWaffles.blogspot.com, links down there, the doobity-doo. If you like this video, like and subscribe. If you didn't like it, like and subscribe anyways, because you might find something you do like. This is a super long review, but it was a long, long episode.
Needed.
Yes, we need to talk about every little bit. So thank you for watching. Thanks for liking. Thanks for talking. We've been professionally unprofessional.